Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. 5:04 a.m. Friday, September the 5th, one day away from the weekend. I hope you're having a great start to your Friday. And thank you so much if you are a subscriber here. If you haven't subscribed, please click on subscribe, and I will tip my big blue mug to you. Thank you very much. So today I want to talk about an issue that is very prevalent in the news. Pierre Poilievre has talked about this. Rempel Garner, MP, Calgary Nose Hill, has written an article in the Toronto Sun about this. I'll get to them in just a moment. It's regarding the Temporary Foreign Workers Program, immigration as well. And everybody's looking for a quick fix here. And I think that's good. I think we need a quick fix to this issue, but I don't think anybody's thinking long term. And that's where I'm thinking. I like to think outside the box here, so I want to give you my solution long-term to this issue in just a moment. Now, why am I talking about this today? Because I came up with this article that I saw this morning, which went up yesterday. Chris Selly, who's against Canadian jobs for Canadian kids instead of for foreign workers? No more temporary foreign workers at Tim Hortons is a no-brainer policy for Poilievre, especially if the Liberals push back, and they will, and they'll push back in the regular way, which I'll also get to in just a moment. And it's exactly what you would expect the left to do when it comes to this issue. Let's just read a quick little bit of this story. Youth unemployment stands at 14.6% according to Statistic Canada's latest release. That's the highest non-pandemic July figure since 2009 when it was at 15.9%. This is a winner for the Conservatives. This is a winning issue for the Conservatives. Here's what Poilievre had to say about this issue just the other day.
People today form what I call Generation Screwed. Let's look at the situation for this generation. It is the first generation that cannot afford a home in Canadian history. And now, the double gut punch. They have the highest, or the worst employment numbers of any group of young people since the late 1990s. So you can't get a job, and even if you did have a job, you can never buy a home after 10 years of Liberal government. Tim Hortons has hired an unimaginable 1,131% more temporary foreign workers in the last 4 years. In the first half of this year alone, the TFW program has imported 74% more low-skilled labor than in all of 2015.
So that's Pierre Poilievre on this. Rempel Garner tweeting this out just the other day. Abolish the temporary foreign worker program. Canadian jobs should go to Canadians. The typical response by the left coming up in just a moment. Here's her article, link in the description. I want to just read this paragraph right here, but there's something very telling in here, okay? Under the current government, Canadian employers have had access to a near endless supply of temporary foreign labor. Instead of investing in training or raising salaries, some businesses have come to rely upon the TFWP as a profit-maximizing crutch. Listen to this. Subsidized by taxpayers who foot the bill for social services these underpaid workers often require, all the while allowing a temporary foreign low-wage underclass to become normalized in Canada. And Pierre Poilievre said the same thing. Now, I'm going to go here. And again, the typical left-wing response to this coming up in just a moment, and I'm going to be lumped in with Poilievre and Rempel Garner on this, and probably you as well, because you're thinking like I'm thinking. I've been aware of this situation for quite some time, and you probably have been as well. So I don't go to Tim Hortons all that well. I think Tim Hortons sucks. Okay, it sucks. But anyway, I go into fast food restaurants, and I often wonder why nobody looks like me anymore. Remember, we have 14.6% of young people who can't find jobs, and generally, low-wage jobs are where people get training for the future. People always say having a Mc job or working at McDonald's is a crappy job. No, it's a good job because McDonald's is a well-run organization that teaches kids how to work, and it's good for them to make minimum wage. I made minimum wage. I was a stock boy at Zellers when I was 16 years of age, and it taught me about working for a living. But I often wonder why I go in and I can't understand the person who asks me for my order anymore. And I often wonder, this person might be a Canadian citizen, but are they a temporary foreign worker? And why isn't a young Canadian person asking me for my order? And again, these people might be Canadian citizens, but the number of temporary foreign workers, as Poilievre says, is way up under the Liberal government. What is the response of people on the left? Now, this is Vashi Kapelis. Listen to what this woman says. This is the typical response. This is why nobody wants to talk about this. And I'm going to look long-term here in just a moment, folks, because we have to look long-term.
Listening to that interview and watching that interview that you did with MP Rempel, quite frankly, was infuriating. I'm going to be quite frank and honest. We are the Conservative Party, and Pierre Poilievre and MP Rempel are treading a very dangerous line of what I'm going to call a dog whistle of racism.
This is their answer to everything, the left. Addressing an issue is racism. It's as if racism doesn't mean anything anymore. The late, great Charles Krauthammer, I remember him writing an article years ago in the Washington Post. It was called Racism, the Last Refuge of the Liberal Scoundrel. Now, this was years ago he wrote this. This is the first refuge of the liberal scoundrel anymore. Scream racism. And we're told constantly that we have to have more people in the country because it's good for our economy. But nobody's addressing the long-term issue here, which needs to be addressed. I'll get to that in just a moment. I mean, here's Chrystia Freeland. This is just a little over a year ago. She's finance minister. Listen to what she has to say here. It's quite mind-boggling. Listen to this.
As a country, Canada is probably the country in the world which is the most welcoming of new Canadians, which is the most welcoming of immigrants. And as finance minister, I have to say that is a huge economic strength. It is a real driver of our country's economic growth. And at a time when all of the industrialized countries in the world are facing huge demographic challenges, we are extremely fortunate as a country that we have the social capacity to welcome immigrants.
Do we have the social capacity to welcome more immigrants? Our country's broke, folks. And yes, our country is facing a demographic challenge, which is the long-term solution that needs to be addressed by people like Pierre Poilievre and Michelle Rempel Garner. Yeah, we need a quick fix to this right now, but there's always another government down the road that's going to push up the immigration numbers once again. I mean, what's Carney's solution to this? He's asked about this. They're having a retreat. Poilievre brings up the fact that we need to get rid of the temporary foreign workers program. He hums and haws about that. But listen to his solution.
That program has a role. It has to be focused in terms of its role. And it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working.
He's got no solution.
Our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now.
That's not enough. That's a huge amount of people. Here's an article from the National Post, Jamie Sarkanak, Carney's immigration plan, a recipe for more overcrowding. Many of Canada's problems in the last 10 years can be traced back to over-immigration. He is committed, Carney, to capping temporary workers and international students, the two types of non-permanent residents, to 5% of the population by 2027, consistent with the plan set by former Immigration Minister Mark Miller last year. But this idea isn't poised to help us out all that much. A 5% cap may sound like an improvement because non-permanent residents reached 7.4% of the population in fall 2024, but it's still atrociously far away from restoring the status quo. Before 2020, non-permanent residents never surpassed 3% of the population. There's no solution here at all. And we have to bring more people in all the time, according to the former finance minister, because it's good for the economy. Well, it's good for companies that want to maximize their profits. Profit maximizing crutch. Meanwhile, we're subsidizing people who come here, taxpayers, you foot the bill, because these people are getting paid minimum wage. You cannot live on minimum wage in this country anymore. So they have to use our social services with your tax dollars to subsidize them so that they can live here and take jobs away from young people in this country. 14.6% unemployment with young people right now. You can't afford to live here anymore. We need more people here that aren't from other countries. Call me a racist. Here's Peter St. Onge. I played a little clip of this exact video the other day, but not this portion. This is a great video. Link in the description. He's a PhD. Canada enters recession. He's talking about Canada here. I think he talks about West Virginia and Los Angeles here. Listen.
In short, wages are West Virginia while housing costs are Los Angeles. According to the OECD, disposable income in Canada, what's left after taxes, is just 57% what it is in the U.S. In 2010, Canada was richer than the U.S. There's partly falling wages. Canada has 4 times the level of migration of the U.S., and partly because Canadian taxes are nearly twice the level in the U.S.
I think I called this video the other day vomit-inducing. It's only 4 minutes long, and he goes on for 4 minutes on how you are falling farther and farther behind in this country. You can't afford anything anymore. The Liberal government is responsible for this, and I'm not putting all the blame on immigrants. I'm not doing that. I'm not making them a scapegoat for the country's problems. I put a lot of that on the government we currently have and that we voted in again on April the 28th. But nobody's looking at the long-term solution to what's going on right now. Everybody's looking for the quick fix, and I understand that. But Pierre Poilievre hasn't brought up what we may need to do in order to replace the people that we currently have in this country, as opposed to bringing in a lot of people from other countries. I mean, Chrystia Freeland's not correct on very much, but she certainly was correct when she said this.
At a time when all of the industrialized countries in the world are facing huge demographic challenges.
What's the demographic challenge she's talking about? And her solution to the demographic challenge is to bring in a lot more people. The demographic challenge that she's talking about is we don't replace the people that die here. And maybe we should be encouraging people to have more kids. Look at this. Canada's replacement rate is 2.1 live births per woman. I'm looking down the road here, folks, because we're getting very, very close to a catastrophe in this country. You know, conservatives in the United States are called conspiracy theorists for talking about a thing called the Great Replacement Theory. Just replacing your population with immigrants. And they're called racists, and they're called conspiracy theorists for talking about that. I don't think they're conspiracy theorists. Democrats have a name for the exact same thing. They call it demographics is destiny. They realize if they flood the country with enough immigrants, eventually, if they get enough people dependent on the government, they'll vote Democrat. And the Democrats will be forever in power. I think that's the case with the Liberals here. George Bernard Shaw, the politician that robs Peter to pay Paul, will always have a friend in Paul. Right? So here we are. We need to start replacing the people that are dying. We don't do that right now. So we have to rely on immigration. Canada's replacement rate is 2.1 live births per woman, a benchmark for a stable population that has not been reached since the early 1970s. With a fertility rate of 1.26 in 2023, Canada's population is aging and increasingly reliant on immigration for growth. The replacement rate is the average number of children a woman needs to have for the population to replace itself, accounting for mortality and providing a small buffer. We need to start looking long-term here. We need to encourage people to have more kids. How do you do that when the economy is crap? Well, we need to get rid of the Liberal government. We need to lower taxes. We need to make life more affordable here. We need to cut down on deficits and debt. We need to stop spending so much damn money. And maybe we need to encourage people to have more kids. Now, you might say, John, I don't want to be subsidizing people to have more kids. You're subsidizing temporary foreign workers right now. Like Michelle Rempel Garner said, wouldn't you rather the money go to people who live here right now, Canadian citizens? Not only that, the temporary foreign workers are taking jobs away from your kids. When I was a kid, you may remember this. When I was a kid, I remember hearing this word. I did not know what it was. I was born in 1965, and I remember the words baby bonus popping up around my house on occasion. I hear my mom or my dad say the word. So I looked online here. In Canada, the 1970s saw the baby bonus. Officially, the family allowance undergo significant changes, including an increase in benefits to $20 per child monthly in 1973. Now, you might think that's a very low amount of money. But adjusting for inflation, this would be $150 per month per kid. A lot of money. Back when families were getting this, making under $18,000 a year. Now, $18,000 a year in 1970s, today it would be $150,000. I mean, giving $150 per kid, and we had 3 of them in my family, to my mom and dad would have been a huge boost to us. And it might be an incentive for people to have more kids, but they can't afford them right now. And I'm not saying it's just going to be $150. It could be more than that. And again, you're going to say, John, why do I want to give money for... Well, because we have a demographic problem here, folks. And we're paying people from other countries right now with our tax dollars. Why not pay Canadian citizens? Now, I think this might be a solution, but I've got some rules with this. If you want to take part in this, you must be a Canadian citizen, you must be employed, and you must be married. We don't want to incentivize young single women to have children. Because, believe it or not, if you want to avoid poverty, there's 3 things you need to do in life. You need to finish high school, don't have a kid before 20, and be married if you have children. So we don't want to encourage single people to have kids. You must be employed, married, and a Canadian citizen to take part in this, because we have to look at this issue long term. We do have credits right now. We have the Canada Child Benefit, but maybe we should be encouraging Canadians now to have more children, so we don't have to rely in the future so much on immigration. Because, folks, our population is changing right now. And I don't think it's changing for the better. You see people marching in the streets on a weekly basis here right now. I don't think all cultures are equal. I don't. If all cultures were equal, we'd be running off to the Middle East all the time. We're not. They're coming here. Why? Because we're better. But we need to look at this issue on a long-term basis. And nobody's talking about this. I think we're on a fast train to demographic Armageddon if we don't get a handle on this issue right now. And maybe encouraging married couples, married employed couples, married Canadian employed couples to have more children is an answer to the problem we've got when it comes to our immigration. And somebody needs to start talking about it. Tell me what you think in the comments. I appreciate you being here. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Thinking outside the box here today, folks. I'll see you in the next one.